This sorry excuse of a prime frame which I could have shout out and made a design a million times better. And this prime frame, made with obvious effort and love. And somehow was from the worser version of Warframe.
Are the same. Your prophets have promised you freedom from a doomed existence. But you will find no salvation on this ring. Those who built this place knew what they wrought. Do not mistake their intent, or all will perish as they did before.
Hola my niños. I did a poll on what you guys wanted, and even though 2 voted, I value those 2 votes, and so, here's this video. I've been wanting to talk about how bad ugly the prime frames have been getting for a while now, and with Voruna's irrelevant ass coming soon.
Try!
It makes you really wonder, what went wrong with prime frames? Prime frames, the best of a frame. Once known for how nice they looked and how much better they are than the original, to now just being known for how lame and underwhelming they are now. Why might this be? I believe it's due to the slow degradation of primes and their quality. Now, the first part of their quality I can point out immediately is the design. The designs have very noticeably changed from pre-Rebeccan era Warframe. For example, and the best one, look at Mesa Prime. She has the same colors that were commonly seen in past prime frames and maintain the same usual look you'd see in other prime frames at that time. They also have a theme that you can clearly see, making the frame look gilded and fresh. Of course, prime frames nowadays do that too, but they look less Warframe-like, and less prime-like, almost looking AI-generated. And some of the new frame designs you see, looking extremely copy-pasted and lacking that prime theme the older primes have.
An idiot admires complexity, a genius admires simplicity.
It doesn't help that some of the primes just look worse than most of the default frame Gyre, and much more that will most definitely not be on screen. Some of these newer frames also just look like a forced mismatch of whatever the fuck this is. Like Gauss, his helmet looks assumingly better, but it's really excessive with the weird horns, and does not keep the slick look Gauss has for, you know, speed. He suffers from the eye vomit disease that the newer primes have, where there's so much bullshit on the frame's body you have no idea what you are looking at, and honestly, the markings in his body and such are just super duper excessive. You could probably remove like 50% of the extra shit and it would look better lol.
An idiot admires complexity, a genius admires simplicity.
Even if you don't believe what I say is true, I have quite a few receipts of poorly designed primes that look copy and pasted and rushed, and oh god, did I mention the frames look rushed now? I'm not saying the old frames might have not looked rushed themselves, there are quite a lot of shitty looking frames before rebounds came in, totally not Mac Prime of course, or Nova god forbid anyone admits she looks like garbage. Off topic, sorry, but there are bad apples in the old pile. But back to shitting on the newer frames. The first and most obvious garbage looking newish prime frame we can see here is Gyre. Gyre's normal version looks a million times better than her prime. She actually follows her ballerina bullshit that she's known for. Her outfit follows it, and I guess her head does, but you can only do so much with Warframe's style to make it look like a ballerina. Enough glazing of Gyre's normal form. Now, with the prime on the other hand. First of all, we need to talk about the head. Luckily, Gyre has plenty of other styles for the head, so this can be fixed. But, why the fuck is a prime a fucking Cyclops? You could ask a million people what the fuck the theme behind this prime could be and not a single person is getting it right. It's busy doing way too much clutter on the design for you to be able to properly enjoy the frame, and pretty much anything like this rivals Mac Prime's design in terms of ugly. Again, themes you cannot tell what this frame embodies at all because of how shitty they look. And theme is incredibly important to a frame, without knowing what they embody. They're just random bullshit with a name, and usually with a frame that has no visible theme, they are hated. Anyway, garbage fucking head, moving on from the Cyclops head and onto her hideous fucking lower half. Yeah, there is way too much happening here. Like, what is that?
This nigga is trash!
The dress looks like someone vomited on it and then lazily placed electrical bullshit onto and then peed on it so it had the gold. And then called it Gyre Prime. Like seriously, we can be better than this shit. The annoying part of this is that she's not the only victim of this random bullshit mentality. So many fucking frames that were made under rebounds have this exact same stupid issue. I really can't fathom why rebounds won't look at the older Prime frames for reference, as they perfected the look of a Prime. Gilded just enough to not to be excessive, moderate amount of color so it isn't clutter and resembles the frames being just enough for it to be peak. Rub should be taking notes but she's too busy acting emotional over Destiny 2 and in live service lol. Harass should be worrying about how mediocre our game is slowly becoming with this shitty drip-fed content cycle and no fucking envy. Though, the modding of the Prime frames really do need a closer look honestly. It's like they just put zero thought into what type of mods may be used on the frame that receives the Prime version, and just roll a wheel to see what to put on the frame. Sometimes, just making the frame harder to mod in certain cases. It's been a decade ever since they added the first Prime and they are still as underwhelming as they were before. Even though DE has plenty of resources to make this more interesting, they chose to make them this generic slight upgrade. They can't even be bothered to add certain things gated only to the Primes, just a slight golden shower and then calling it a Prime. Honestly, remove rebounds and make Warframe interesting again lol, but honestly I think there is another reason, as to why Primes feel so mid nowadays. And no, this time I'm not blaming rebounds or the team for once. I think it's because of how saturated Prime frame releases have become, and how common they are now. I know I just said I wouldn't blame DE or rebounds for this, but in a way it's their fault for this reason I am going to state. There is an immense lack of hype for Prime frames nowadays. It's been so overdone as the Prime frames have become saturated. Obviously in the early history of garbage frame people were hyped for any Prime release, as this was a new fresh concept and content. However, it would become stale over time, like any content would become. I can't blame them for this, but since they have such a cult of a following, these roaches will continue hyping up every release like mindless golems. But I will blame DE for not putting more effort into their animated trailers. The budget for the trailers still seems low, and even though DE can put a stupid amount of effort into these mediocre gimmick frames that aren't even Primes, they still make Prime framed trailers, which are supposed to generate hype, look mediocre at best even in 2026, and for some Primes don't make them at all for them. But what would anyone expect from the weirdo who enjoys adding gooner garbage and using the resources given to her by her slaves in the worst lazy way imaginable? And honestly, with how easy Primes are now to get, it also makes that luster they have non-existent. I'm probably repeating myself, but you understand what I'm saying with the mix of lacking amount of genuine hype behind Primes, shitty design, and barely changed modding Prime frames. It makes them dreadfully irrelevant and mid. Typical of garbage frame. And now you probably want to know how I would fix this. I'm not really sure, but I do know for sure that you should like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and hype this video up, or you'll see the Rebecca's team and be devoured. Okay, enough of my rambling, back on track. To be honest, my ways to make the Primes more interesting as a concept and make them feel a little more unique might not be very interesting, but this is what I believe could do something significant. To start, I do this by giving the Primes specific Prime limited mods. Give a little reason behind this: newer mass-produced frames can't handle the power of the specific mods, and honestly, the Prime designs need a revision. Go back to being a little more simple. These newer designs are usually overdone and do not look good. Seeing the retro older version of Primes again might bring hype to them and make people interested in them again. But to be fair, I only have so many ideas to make Primes cool, and we know the devs are too stupid to actually do their jobs lol. Expect more shitty Prime designs and more hideously designed frames instead everyone. Video is at an end, and seeing garbage frame in this pathetic state after releasing Folia, hyping up gimmick frames and still adding literally nothing new does disappoint me. Though things in my personal life have become dreadfully chaotic, I'll be having to figure shit out. Also, fun fact, I graduated, so that's cool, right? I wish it didn't fill me with such existential dread lol. Maybe I'll pull what those people pull. Not sure what the next video will be, but it shall be the beacon that lights the way. Remember to have a good day or don't. The choice is yours.
We've read a lot, like we've played it a lot, we've read a lot, like we've played it a lot, we've read